That's the name.
Hey everybody, and welcome back to Off-Road Independence. My name is Eric McGrew, and today we're going to talk about one of the best upgrades you can make to your 4x4, in my opinion. So when we talk to people about upgrades and stuff, and I'm sure you have your own opinions, there's all kinds of ideas out there that people talk about. Usually it's going to be a winch or a locker or whatever. And I have my group of upgrades that I always say are the best upgrades you can make to your truck. And one of those is one that I find very highly overlooked. And I see people doing all this stuff to their vehicles, and yet they forget about their brake system. People put bigger tires on, they put a lot more weight on their truck, they'll put, a heavy duty set of bumpers, rock sliders, winches, racks, and we're talking lots of extra weight, hundreds of pounds of extra weight. And then they're taking their truck and they're crawling rock, they're doing rough trails, they're really using the truck outside of the factory brake system scope. And yet, when they get brake fade or when they get, warped rotors, they go back and they put an OEM kind of brake on their truck. So one of the things that I always suggest is that if you're going to be serious into off-roading, along with a suspension and tires, of course, one of the best upgrades and most important upgrades you can make to your truck is your braking system. Why is that? Well, it's because not only are brakes good for control and that kind of stuff, but they really are part of the essential aspect of what's going to save your life. And we're not just talking about on the trail, which is a factor, especially here in Colorado with all the high mountain kind of off-roading that's available, but also after you get off the trail and you're back on the highway on your way back home. A good brake system will continue to provide safe stopping for you even when you're done wheeling and you're back on the highway. Whereas a OEM or a cheap replacement OEM system, what might happen is by the time you get done wheeling all day long and it's got mud and everything packed up in it, and you could have parts that fail, or you could have a system that is, in case of rotors, warped, or pads that have started to chunk out and just don't work like they should, and then that can cause failure on the highway on your way home. So I really think that before lockers and all that kind of stuff, you should really consider an upgrade to your brake system. So there are basically three ways that I know of to upgrade your brake system within a reasonable way, and one of them is not so reasonable depending on who you are. But you have just getting slotted or vented or upgraded or whatever rotors and a better quality brake pad, which fits in the OEM placement but is a higher quality component. And then you have basically doing brake conversion kits, which can be converting from like a drum system to a disc brake system. And then there is a big brake kit, which is more typically thought of with like off-road racing or with street racing, but also can be beneficial for your daily driver. Now, each of these have their variances, and each of them have different price constraints or values depending on what kind of vehicle you have. So today what I'm doing is I'm actually installing this EBC kit on my 2001 SR5 4Runner. This is an OEM replacement rotor, so it's the exact same size as the OEM fitment, but this one has a high quality vented, slotted, and dimpled, not cross drilled, but dimpled rotor. Why? Well, first off, I should explain that this is EBC's Stage 5 brake kit for my truck. Now, I talked to EBC directly to understand what that meant for the trucks that they sell products for. Even though this is Stage 5 with yellow stuff pads, the Stage 5 with yellow stuff pads is not the same as it is for a truck, I should say, is not the same as it is for off-road racing. I mean, a race car, for instance, or a track car. The difference is that a lot of times the brake system on a sports car or a track car, the brakes have to heat up before they work functionally because they're designed to endure higher heats. So they have to reach a certain temperature before they start to grab well. That's why a lot of track cars, the brake systems in daily driving really aren't that good. They only become good when you start dealing with them in a track format. But these, when you talk about a Stage 5 brake kit for trucks with the yellow stuff pads, what happens is you're actually talking about a tow package more than you are a high performance race package. So the design of these isn't so that you have to wait for the pads to heat up before they start to grip. They're just pads that are designed to last longer and dissipate heat faster, which is why you have the slotted rotors with the vents and then the dimples. The yellow stuff is a specific compound that EBC makes, and they have it formulated for the best endurance over whatever period of time. And this particular kit here has the dimples because I prefer dimples over cross-drilled. What's the difference? Well, cross-drilled actually weakens your rotors to a degree. And when you have high heat circumstances or situations like what I have here a lot, coming up and down the mountain passes on the interstates and the highways, and then of course steep inclines for long periods of time on the descent in off-roading, you can actually heat up a rotor, and if it's cross-drilled, have fatigue and actually cause fracturing, which eventually could potentially cause your rotor to actually break off in chunks, which isn't that common in normal circumstances, but since most of the time it's hard to find somebody who will turn slotted and dimpled rotors or cross-drilled rotors, people run their rotors until they just really can't handle them anymore. And that's when a cross-drilled could become dangerous because there may be hair fractures in there that you don't notice, and it could potentially cause a piece of your rotor to chunk out, or at least separate enough to where it destroys your brake pad, and then you kind of lose your brakes at that point. So I really do prefer the dimpled rotors over the cross-drilled, and the slots are always good for extra heat dissipation. And then of course the vents are the same thing. They're vented so that air is flowing through and it keeps the heat down. Now this kit for my 4Runner was about $230, $50, $250, something like that for this kit. It should last about twice as long as what an OEM aftermarket replacement rotor is with pads at one of your local hardware or auto parts stores. So in my opinion, with all the steep inclines and all that I do, with all the interstate driving I do as a daily driver, and even here a lot of the highways have higher, relatively speaking, speed limits. So I think that these are definitely a good option for me. Now on my particular truck, another option I could have done and I thought about for a while was actually going to a big brake kit, but not spending a ton of money. Some vehicles, if you want a big brake kit, you're just going to have to buy a Willwood or a Brembo or Stop Tech or something like that, and we're talking for the 2 front rotors and calipers and everything, you're talking about $2,300, which is a lot of money. But specifically for my 4Runner, and I think if I'm not mistaken the Tacomas as well of this generation and year range, you can actually do a conversion from the 4Runner rotor, which is this size here, to a Tundra caliper and rotor setup, which is actually considerably bigger. But you have to have the right wheels. Like if mine are 16-inch wheels, so I can do it. If you have 15-inch wheels, you'd have to buy 16-inch wheels to fit it, and then you'd have to buy the caliper and the rotor to be able to do that kit. Now, the good thing about that is that it does give you a bigger diameter, so you have a larger surface, which means they stay cooler longer, and it also means that they actually have more surface area for the brake pads to grip to, so you get better braking. And particularly on the Tacomas and on the 4Runners doing that upgrade, all you have to do is really bolt it on. There's no extra fabrication. And in the dust shield, you have to cut out a little bit more of a notch so that the caliper fits and it doesn't interfere with the dust shield. But it's not a big thing. It's not very intrusive. It's pretty simple. It still is kind of expensive. By the time you buy the rotors, the caliper, and do all that stuff, if you buy a basic kit, it's still around $500. If I bought an EBC kit, stage 5 like this, plus the rotors, or plus the calipers, it would cost me around, I guess, $700. So it was still quite expensive. And so therefore I decided to try out just a factory 4Runner size rotor with the pads that go to it in the EBC. Now, I can talk about EBC and stuff like that, but that's not the point. The point isn't my preference on the brake brand, which I'll do in the future. It was just simply explaining why I did what I did and what I was looking at when I did this. So I hope that kind of makes some sense for you guys. I hope that you see the benefit in what I'm saying in that sense. And I hope that you found the video interesting and informative. Hope to see you guys in the next video that comes up here in the future. Please don't forget to like this video. Give me a thumbs up on it. If you would, please share it, comment, and subscribe to my channel. Don't forget, I also have a Patreon page. If you'd please check that out. I could really use the help to keep Off-Road Independence going. I really enjoy doing it, but it is a lot of money and effort to keep it going, so please don't forget to support me in that way if you can. And I hope to see you guys in the next video. Thanks.